interview questions and pod. Okay, I'll give you the questions list. So what is pod? Why is it differ from container? Okay, next, how many pods are exist? How many pods are exist in the system? How to check that? Then how many ways to create the pod? So how to get the running pods in the cluster? Suppose if you have a different namespace, with the help of namespace, and within that namespace how you will get other container, I mean running containers or pods in your system. So here you need to mention how to get the running pods in dev namespace. So here get the running pods in the cluster is different, getting the development namespace is different, so you can keep in mind that. So how to check the logs of a pod? Practically we can check all of this. So suppose if you want more details about the events, containers, labels, so annotations with our what images are used, that how you can check with this. So how to check in detail about pod command, which command we are using to how to schedule a pod on a node. What is the command? How to schedule pod on the node. So what is the attribute you need to specify? We'll see all of this in a Kubernetes environment with the help of kubectl command. How to delete the pod? How to delete the pod? Okay, delete, right? So this we can see all this in the Kubernetes environment. So let's go for, so this is our environment. Check kubectl get nodes. So minikube, so only one node is there, control plane node, and we can clear this, and I'll go for my city. So this is where I was working. So this is the directory which we are going to work, and now we'll see one by one. So what is pod and why it is differ from container? So pod is nothing but a single instance of an application which will create in the Kubernetes system. So or you can say pod is a smallest object that you will create in the Kubernetes. So why it is differ from container? So container is having the code for running your application, some library settings and code snippet and all, but Within the pod, container is running. So a pod can have the multiple containers. That is the difference from a container and pod. So how many pods exist in the system, how you can check it. So in the Kubernetes system, how many pods exist? Kubectl get pods. Using the kubectl get command, you can get the list of pods. So there is no resources available in the system. Now we will try to create one pod and we will try to get it. So here what are all there? So nothing is available, so we can use my pod dot YAML. So we can insert this one API version. This is the version of the Kubernetes API. So kind is the type of object you are going to create, that is pod, and the metadata. Under metadata you need to specify the name, my pod, and spec. This is the simple pod YAML file. Spec, under spec we need to specify the containers. Within the hyphen represent the list. So we can specify any number of containers. So name is my nginx container, image was nginx. So this is the simple YAML file with regards to pod, and this we can run with the help of kubectl command. Then save it, and if you want to verify that, you can use cat command. It will list all the content which are available in the pod. So kubectl create -f my pod.yaml. So the pod was created. Now you can try to get the pod, get pods. See, my pod was running. This is how you can create the pod. That is one way. And so one more way, with the help of kubectl run command, we can create it. Kubectl run redis. This is the name. Run is the command. Redis is the name of the pod, and use the image as redis. See, redis pod was created. It will give you the list of details now. Get pods. See, my pod was running. This is how there are two ways to create the pod. One is via kubectl run command, and with the YAML file. Both we have seen. So what is the next question? How many ways to create the pod? This was discussed. And how to get the running pods in the cluster. With the help of running pods in the cluster means kubectl get pods. So this is the running pods in the system. Using the kubectl get command, we can get the running pods in the cluster. How to get the running pods in the development namespace? So in the development namespace, in the sense, you need to specify the namespace while getting the pods. Kubectl get pods -n dev. That means get the pods in the development namespace. -n in the sense namespace. So there is no resources. We'll try to create one. Kubectl run nginx1 -image equal to nginx-n dev. So it will create the nginx1 pod under the development namespace. Namespace dev not found. That means we need to create the namespace first. Create ns dev. So it will namespace was created. If you want to get the namespace, it will get ns. See, development namespace was there. Now you can try to execute that command. So nginx1 was created. Now if you are trying to get the pods, running pods, without using the development namespace, nginx1, it will not come. Get pods, sorry. So only two running containers will come, two pods, that is my pod and redis, and nginx1 it will not come. when if you want to get the nginx one container that you can use with the pods -n dev, then only it will list the pods under the development namespace. Okay, how to check the logs of the pod? So for checking the logs of the pod we need to specify logs pod using the my pod not found. Okay, wait a second. Logs of pod. See, this is how you can check the logs of the pod. So what we mentioned here, kubectl logs command pod my pod. So this will not work, so you can use directly logs and the pod name. So here the list of commands it was executed, and this is the log history. So here you can see entry point, docker entry point is not empty, so we will attempt to perform the configuration. So shell script is running and some of the commands were running. This is how you can check the logs of the pod. And clear this. Now what is the next question? How to check the detail about pod? In detail about pod, which command we are using? Suppose you want to get in detail about the pod, you can use describe command. So it will give you the in details about so what configurations are used and what labels are used, is there an IP configured, and any annotations and events containers in the image, everything we can see the help of describe command. See here. So name is my pod, under the namespace default, service account default, node minikube, and status running. So here the IP address is configured for that pod 10.244.0.ip, and the containers which are used in the pod, and this is nginx container name image port. So state is restarted, and we can see some conditions volumes binding with this pod and some of the events which are occurred. This is how you can check the in detail about the pod. So clear this. So what is the next question? So how to schedule a pod on the node? So what is the attribute we need to specify? So for scheduling the pod on the nodes, we need to use the node name field under the spec, so that it will be scheduled on the specific node, not in the, this is manual scheduling it will come. If case of auto scheduling, automatically scheduler will take care of which pod goes and which node. So we'll try to create that one as well. And here we man schedule, I can say tool.yml. So hit enter. API version v1, kind is pod metadata name. So this is for scheduling the manual scheduling. I'm writing the pod for manual scheduling. So my pod 1 under spec. Here we can specify that node name field, node name, so that is minikube. Since I have that minikube, so I'm specifying the node name. Then you can use remaining as same containers hyphen name. If you are going with if you have more than one node, you can try to use whatever the node it is applicable for you, is the node 1 or worker node 1 or worker node 2, that you can specify here. I am giving that name is redis container, image was redis. So With the help of node name attribute, we can specify the which node this pod will be placed. This is not auto scheduling. Only for the manual scheduling we are specifying the node name field. Okay, now save it, verify it, any syntactical mistakes, so that is okay. Now we can try to run get pods hyphen n, try to create hyphen f man schedule.yml. So my pod 1 was created. Now you can try to get the pods. So you will not able to see the pod which node it is placed. So if you want to check that, with the kubectl get pods hyphen o wide, it will give you the in detail about which node it is placed. See here, you will see the node name minikube. Under the minikube it was placed, and it will give you the IP address and a nominated node and the readiness gates. So this is how you can try to check the node name with the help of kubectl get pods hyphen o wide. So how to delete the pod? For deleting the pod, you can use directly with the help of delete command kubectl delete pod. So you will try to get the pods first and see what are all available, and you can try to delete it. Kubectl delete pod my pod 1, I'll say my pod 1. So it was getting deleted. Now you can see if that is exist still in the system or not. So only two are running, my pod and redis. This is how you can delete the pod. So these are the questions majorly for the interviewers they will ask. See some of the questions on the replication controller as well. So we can go with the notepad. So regarding the replication controller, okay, so what is replication controller? So a replication controller, suppose it will comes under the load balancing. Suppose a replication controller is, so it will create the pods, and we can create multiple pods to share the load across them using the replication controller. So consider a scenario, we have a single pod running in a single pod serving the set of users. When the number of users increases, we deploy additional pods to balance the load across the two pods. So here if the demand further increases and we were to run out of resources on the first node, so we could deploy additional pods across the other nodes in the cluster. So as you can see here, the replication controller spans the load across the multiple nodes in the cluster. So it helps us to deploy or balance the load across the multiple pods and different nodes. That is how you scale your application. So the purpose is but not the same. There is a replication controller and replica set as well. So we will see that now. Some of the questions. So what is replication controller? See, replication controller is for sharing the load across the pods in the different nodes. So what is replication controller? Okay, so what are the key fields we use to create? What are the key fields in RC? So key fields, while creating the pod, we can see only the four attributes are main: API version, kind, metadata, and spec. Here, along with that, we need to use the template section and the spec file, and we need to use the replicas. So these are the key fields. So how many ways to create and how? How many ways to create create RC and how. Okay, so let's see this. And how do you see? Scale up and scale down application or your replication. So how to delete RC, and does it delete the parts as well? Does it delete parts? Okay, this we can see now. So replication control we discussed. What are the key fields we discussed? Under the spec we need to specify the metadata. So complete metadata information in the pod, it will go under the template section, name, labels, and etc etc. And we can use the replicas. These are the three major fields which are available under the spec. And so how many ways to create the replication controller? C. So there are two ways to create the replication controller: with the help of kubectl run command, create command, and with the help of using YAML file. Now we will go with the YAML file, rc my rc dot YAML file. So here you can try to create one replication v1 kind is replication controller. Keep in mind that these are capital letter in the starting and controller, so then only it will be identified. Metadata, name, so my rc, and spec. Here we can specify this template section, template, then only it will be identified as a. So for your identification, so it is not mandatory, but you can write under the metadata labels as well, so that you can get to know what it will comes under the template section. So you can specify the app name is my app, and tire is front end. Tire or type, you can use type is front end. So now you can see this complete data will move to the template section. Now you can write the same here, name my rc, labels, app, my app, type is front end. Now you can specify the, sorry, here we are not specifying the metadata name, so there are mistake. Metadata, okay. Now we can try to move all this content. Labels, you can verify the syntaxes with the help of online YAML checker, that is also fine. Okay, now we can, under metadata we need to specify the spec. Here we can specify that as a containers, name of the container hyphen space name, redis, image was redis. So now the pod is ready. So what is the difference is here in the pod and run? So the template section and whatever the meta until from metadata to type, it will goes under the template that we have seen, and name remaining as same as a container. Now we need to specify the replicas. So this is the main difference here. So it will share the load across the two replicas within the same node or a different node, that is fine. So template and replica set. Template and replica set, direct elements of spec. You can clearly specify that, and if there are any syntactical issues you can check with the YAML checker that we have completed. Now we'll try to run this, save it, add myrc. So this is the file we have verified. Now kubectl create -f myrc.yaml. Converting YAML JSON line to mapping values are not allowed in this context. Wait a second, there is some issue. myrc, which line it was giving? So 12, right? Okay. Now version. Name myrc. Okay. So here labels app my app. So my app is already running, I guess. So we need to use some other. My app one. That is also fine, and that's not an issue. Replica system. It is okay. No, we'll see that any spec syntactical errors with the help of online checker. And wait a second, we'll check YAML syntaxes. Try to hit. See, there are issues with labels. Okay, name. Okay, you see this here, myrc. You can easily identify with the help of YAML checkers. Save it. You can try to run. So replication controller myrc was created. Now you can try to get that pattern, get or RC in the sense replication controller. myrc was there, and two desired and two current replication controller. Now you can try to get the pods. So with the help of the prefix myrc, the two pods was created to share the load. I mean, this is the load balancing. Two pods are created under that. And how do you scale down or scale up with the help of scale command? What is the next question here? How do you scale up and scale down the application? Now you can see this kubectl scale rs. Wait, scale rs rc myrc hyphen replica is equal to 1. So I was scaled down to 1. Now we can try to check get rc. So only one pod is available now. We can try to get pods So one part is removed, only one part is available. And how do you scale up with the help of scale command? There is 2 again. So this was scaled now, and try to get the RC. So again 2 it was there. Now get the parts. 2 parts are created again. So this is how you can scale up and scale down your replication controller. So this way we can share the load across the multiple pods in the different node or in the same node. So it will be load balancing. And how to delete the next question was how to delete the replication control. How it does, it deletes pods as well. Let me check. Clear the screen. Delete RC. Yeah, RC. Deleted. Now we can try to go. The second one like both. So I was deleted replication controller. It also deletes the pods in that attached to that replication controller. This is how you can work with the replication controller. To the replica set, and what is the use of replica set? So replica set always ensures that a desired number of pods are always run in the container, so in the system, so that the fault tolerance it will not be allowed even if the pod is failure. So this replica set automatically deploys a pod for use. So this is the use case here. So we'll see some of the questions on this. So what is RS replica set? So replica set, it ensures that the desired number of pods are always run in the cluster so that the fault tolerance will not be applicable on this. So how does replica set ensures fault tolerance? This is how. So even if the pods were deleted, how does the replica set ensure fault tolerance? So even if the pod is deleted, the replica set automatically deploys one more pod if there are any failures in the pod. So it will not be allowing the fault tolerance. So what are the main fields? What are the main fields in RS? So in RS there are two main fields. One is the metadata section will move to the spec section of in the pod definition replica set file. So and other one is the replicas and selector field. These are the main three fields. One is the apps v1, that is the API version apps v1. The second one is the template section. Third one is replicas, and fourth one is selector label. So let's see one example on this. Vi rs my rs.yml file. So API version. So here earlier we have seen only v1. Now we can see apps v1 because this is the replica set, and we can say replica set S capital and R capital. Metadata so metadata section, we know that we can name all this my app, my rs, and labels we can specify labels app my rs app type. So here in the type section you can specify either based on the service type. You can specify, I can say it is front end and spec. So here we can have a separate field called template for the replication controller. Also same, here we can use metadata. The complete metadata will move under the spec template section. So metadata name, my rs app name, my rs app labels, app my rs app. So here we must spell that my rs. Okay, my rs app and type as a front end. Not this. So this name and this name should match here because the metadata section was moved to template section, and we can specify the containers. I'm a bit fast, you can tell me so that I can move a bit slow. And hyphen name it as nginx, image was nginx. You can use nginx container, you can say, and specify the replicas first two, and selector label, selector match labels. Here L capital and type as front end. So you can verify this syntax if need it, and I'm not going to do that. So here you can see this API version is the difference. Earlier we can see only v1 API version, and here the kind is ReplicaSet. Here and previously we have seen that replication controller, the type of object we are going to create, and other sections are remaining same, and replicas also same in the replication controller, and only the selector label here the difference is selector, API version and kind. So we'll try to run this one. Escape colon verify. So now clear this kubectl create -f my rs .yaml. So the replica set was created. Now you can try to see get pods. So my rs, this is the prefix of replica set. We have given in the replicas was 2, so it was created 2 replicas. Okay, so how many ways to create? There are 2 ways to create the replica set, with the help of YAML file and with the help of kubectl run command. So create command. So here we have seen that YAML file, and we will try to create one more replica set with the help of create kubectl create rs my rs1, name of the replica set hyphen image equal to nginx. Okay, if you want to specify the replicas, you can use hyphen replicas is equal to 1. What is this? Create rs my rs1 hyphen image equal to, okay, array image flag. Okay, kubectl create hyphen helper is okay. Let's wait for a second. This is a replica kubectl run rs my rs1. Okay, that we need to specify the selector label, right? Instead of going with, so here we are not specifying any selector label. Hyphen hyphen image equal to nginx hyphen hyphen clecto selector equal to match labels equal to. So we can create it. Let's see this somehow. I don't remember that command. So there are two kubectl get rs. So there are two replica sets, two desired and two current, and we can see pods, kubectl get pods, and two pods are created with the prefix name as replica set. This is how you can create with the help of YAML file. So main fields we discussed how many ways to create the fields, and we can see how to scale up and scale down. Kubectl scale rs my scale rs rs my rs hyphen 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 replicas equal to 2, right? We can increase it to 3. This replica spell mistake. So we have increased it to 3. Now we can try to get the replicas capital rs. So 3 are desired. Now we will check the pods as well. So 3 pods are available. If you try to delete one pod, you got to delete pod with the help of pod name. Let's see if it is deleted or not. What is the command? So it was deleted. So the clearly got the message it was deleted. Now you will try to get that get pods. See how many pods are exist with the prefix name or replica set. 3 pods are exist. Even if you try to delete that, by default replica set will automatically replace the pod. That is how the fault tolerance will not be allowed in the cluster with the help of replica set. So we have scaled up to 3. Now we can try to scale down to 2. Scale rs my rs hyphen replicas equal to 1. Scale. Now you can try to get the replicas. So it was 1. So we have scaled down to the 1. So this is how you can try to scale up and scale down with the help of scale command. So even if we delete the pod, that will not be deleted, and by default it will be replaced even if you try to delete. Okay, now you can completely delete the rs my rs. Let's see if the pods are deleted or not. So my rs was deleted. Clearly you got the message replica set my rs was deleted, and now you can try to get this replica set. So no resources, that means replica set was deleted. Now try to get the pods. So once the replica set was deleted, then pods automatically deleted from the cluster, whichever the node is placed on, and only the remaining will show. This is how you can work with the replica set. We'll see some of the questions on deployments. So what is the deployment? So suppose if you would like to have multiple changes to your environment, like automatic pod creation and with the replica set creation. So once the deployment is ready, you can create with the deployment along. By default deployment will be created, along with that replica set will be created, and then pods will be created. So that means with the prefix name of deployment, replica set and pods will be created. Let's see some interview questions on deployment. So what is deployment? So now we discussed that it will create the deployment once the deployment file YAML file was ready. So you can create with the deployment, and a deployment will create the replica set. A replica set will create the pods. So this way you can have the multiple changes to your environment. You can use the deployment. So key features of deployment. Features also will comes under the deployment strategies. There is rolling update, and we will see that later in the how much percentage of it will consider further updates and all. So how do you create the deployment? How do you create the deployment? So this will see it is almost similar to the replica set except for kind. So let's move on to the terminal. So here we can see. So we created the replica set here. So we'll see that cat what is the myrs.yaml file. So it is almost similar to the same. I am copying this and will way my dip.yml. So I'm pasting this. So it is almost similar except for the kind, right? So we can insert here deployment. Instead of replica set we can use deployment. So remaining all same, replica selector match labels everything should be same, and API version also same. And we will try to execute this, save it. If you want to save the file, once the file was ready, click press on escape colon wq, it will save the file. And clear this one. Now kubectl create -f my dep.yaml. So deployment was created. Now we will check the deployment first. Kubectl get the command which we will use for the pods, get pods. Similar way you can use the deployments for as well. Use deploy. So there are 2 by 2 was created. This is replicas, right? Replicas was 2 in the deployment YAML file we mentioned. So it was created myrs. So name was given as myrs only. If you want to verify that, you can verify my dep. See this myrs was given the same, it was executed. Don't confuse with that. And now we got the deployments, and we will try to get the replica sets. DRS, not DRS, DS, sorry. Hit deploy. Now we will get the replica set rs. See, with the prefix name of deployment, it was created the replica set with the id. Now we will try to get the pod on top of that. So deployment name along with the replica set id, it was created the pods. This is how you can create the pod with the YAML file and execute. So deployment is created. Deployment will go with the replica set created. Replica set will create the pods. This is how you can work with that. So what is the difference between replica set and deployment? The only difference is kind. So we need to mention the replica set instead of deployment in the deployment YAML file. So this one also we need to scale. How to scale deployment dip, I can say. So this will see, use the kubectl scale command to scale deployment my dep myrs, sorry, because we have given the name as myrs, and hyphen hyphen replicas equal to 3, not deploy. So app was scaled to 3 replicas. Earlier here you can see that there are only 2. Now we have this 3. 3 are ready. This is how you can scale up, and if you want to scale down you can use 1 that was scaled. Now get the deployments. Okay, any doubts? If you go for an interview and they will ask, so what is the use of deployment, they will show 4K cinema for you, not only HD. So keep in mind that you have to prepare well and practice well, then only you will able to understand what the concept was. Kubectl get rs only one replica set. Earlier there are 2 replica sets, you can see. Now you can try to get the pods as well, only one. This is how we need to work. And we have seen what is deployment, scaling and upscaling, features how we can create, and with the help of command line also we will create the deployment. That we will see that kubectl create deploy my deploy hyphen hyphen is no not set, image was not set, hyphen hyphen image equal to nginx. So deployment was created with the help of kubectl command line itself. We can create the deployment. Now we can try to get the deployment. Kubectl get deploy. We'll see my deploy also there. So 2 ways to create the deploy via command line from the kubectl command using the YAML file. 2 ways you can get the. So deployment strategies we can see rolling update, max search, and there are 2 deployment strategies are available that we will see in the upcoming sessions. Now can clear this. Okay, and how to delete. Next question was how to delete deployment. Okay, use kubectl get deploy, sorry, kubectl delete deploy my deploy. So my deploy was deleted. Now you can try to get the deploys, only one available. So kubectl get pods. Now with the only one pod is available with the prefix name of replica set. Okay, replica set along with deployment. Now we will try to delete the deployment. So what it will happen to the pod, delete deploy my rs, that is right. So deployment was deleted. Now you can try to get the pods, 0 pods, no resources found in the default namespace. That means the deployment was created. Once the deployment was deleted, replica set also deleted, pods also deleted. We'll try to get that replica set if it is exist or not. Get rs. So this is what the, so you go through these sessions. It is beginner friendly and clear cut explanations I have given. If you have any further questions, you can comment it in, so that we can discuss and we will clarify on that as well. We'll move on to the next topic, services. Let's see some of the questions and services also. So mainly the services enable the front-end applications to be made available for the end users, where it can help the communication between the backend parts and front-end parts. So and also it helps in establishing the connectivity to an external data sources. So since the service listen to a port and the node, so forward the request to the pods. So here there are 3 services available: node port, cluster API, and load balancer. This was already discussed in our previous session. You can go through that video, or you have any doubts you can comment it. So let me go through this cluster IP node port and services. By default, when you install the Kubernetes on your local machine, that cluster IP will get installed. So that is the default service. See, this is the cluster IP default service, which will be the external IP. There is no external IP sense, no. Kubectl get svc -o void. It will give you the IP. Port range is 443 and TCP. This is the, and the cluster IP is given. This is the default service. Now we will try to create a node port service with the help of service definition file, that is vi node port.yaml. I can say, okay, here API version, some changes will be done here, so you need to make sure that, and kind is a service, a type of object we are going to create. This is a service and metadata section. You can pass the name of my service, and under the spec section we need to specify the type. Here we need to specify the node port, then only it will be identified as a service. So which type of service we are going to use, and ports. So this is the port range is here. We can say a hyphen target port, so which you are communicating to, I mean which you are making a request to, that is the target port. I can say 80, and port is a mandatory field, and even if you are not specifying the port and node port, also not mandatory, but only the. So this is the simple service file, YAML file. Here we can see that even the target port and node port is not mandatory. Even if you are not specifying, it will consider as from 30,000 to 32,000 to 767 range. Within that range, it will select any of the port, and even the target ports also by default it will select with the 80. Only the thing is port is mandatory. This is the simple node port service file, and here instead of node port service we can specify the load balancer. So after that, and you need to write down the selector if you want to identify the pod, which pod you are targeting to communicate, and under that you need to use the selector label. Selector and the app you can specify, and whatever the metadata section you are going to written, same thing it will come here, and app and type, same thing it will come here. Suppose you are specifying the name under the metadata label section, you need to specify the name my app here, and type as a front end. Okay, this is how you need to write the file. Okay, for instead of node port, you can use load balancer for load balancing our applications, where it presents the load balance for our application in a supported cloud providers. That's on the services side. So since we don't have the front end applications, so we are trying to remove this selector. Okay, then we'll save it and exit, and create this one, kubectl create -f node port.yaml file. So if to choose ignore this errors, turn on validating error API version. So API version we need to check version. See, and there is a spell mistake, so you need to verify the syntaxes and the spell mistake, otherwise it will not work. So now create it. So that the service was created. Now try to get the service. How to get the service? Kubectl get services. So there are two services, Kubernetes cluster IP, that is the default service, and my service which we created now. This is how you can create the service, and using YAML file also you can create the service. Using the kubectl also you can create the service definition file. now we will see the questions at a level. What is a service and why it is used? So the mainly the CAD service can help to group the pods together and provide a single interface to access the pod in a group. So that is the main use of the Kubernetes service. And why do we need a service in Kubernetes? So service in a Kubernetes, it will help us to communicate with the pod using the static IP. That means entire the service is a life cycle of a service, then it will entire lifespan it will be the same IP address, so that we can communicate without need of creating another service. So what are the different types of services available? And there are three types of services which we have: cluster IP, node port, and load balancer. These three we already discussed. What is the default service? Cluster IP is the default service. Difference between pod IP and service IP. So pod IP is it is not static, and until the pod is recreated, the IP is stable, and if the pod is recreated, the IP got changed. In case of service, the entire lifespan is same until the service is available in the system, Kubernetes system. So how does the service find which pod can route traffic to? So that in the services section we are specifying the selector with the app and the type, so we can match with the pod. So this is how the service will route to the traffic to. So what is the role of labels and selectors in a service? Labels, and it will match with the selected pod, and it will redirect to the selectors. And group proxy with relation to services. Group proxy is it will check the necessary routes are in place to the request is going. So those are the questions. Namespace, some of the questions on the namespace also. So here we can see what is namespace. So why we use namespace in a Kubernetes? So namespace is a way to divide the cluster resources between the multiple users or applications. So why we need to use this one? Why need to use? So namespace is actually a separation of environments between the development, testing, and production environments. That is environment separation, resource management quotas with and limits applied to as per the namespace. And that means we have to specify the limits per namespace. So then it can control the access with the more CPU usage and memory usage and all. So how the namespaces can work? So resources like pods and deployments and services, etc., are namespaced. Some namespaces are cluster wide resources that we cannot namespaced. Those are nodes, persistent VLMs, cluster roles, and storage classes. These are node wise, so we cannot namespace that. So let's see some questions on that. So why we need to use? If you want definitions, we can create that as well, and you can go through the video. You can get it by listening the session. So now we can see how do we get the namespaces available in the system. Okay, get ns. So ns in the sense namespace. So we have that namespaces all default, kube node release, kube public, and system. These are the by default Kubernetes system will create these namespaces, and it was created by ourselves. So now we can try to delete that namespaces. Delete ns dev. So the namespace which we created, that was deleted. Wait for a second. Okay, so it was deleted now. Then see what are all the namespaces. Default is the default one, kube node release related to nodes, and this is the public namespace, and this is the system namespace. Only the all the API server, scheduler, controller manager, and etcd is available. Let's check if those are available or not. You can see that kubectl get pods hyphen n kube system. So these are the sorry guys, These are the pods available in the kube system namespace, that is the system related Kubernetes system related pods. So we can see how we can create the namespace and how many ways to create the namespace. How we can create the namespace, ways, how many ways we can say, how many ways we can create the namespace. NS in the sense namespace. There are two ways to create the namespace that we can see. Kubectl create ns dev. So development namespace was created. Create command, it will create the namespace. Development namespace. NS is namespace. That is also you can full form name space. Dev it was already there, so we can create dev1. So dev1 was created. Now you can try to get the namespace. Get ns. See, dev1 and dev1 is listed here. This is how you can create the namespace, and we can see some of the questions. So how we can list all the namespaces, that you can use kubectl get ns get all all name spaces. So this is how you can list all the namespaces with the help of get all all namespaces. It will list out all the namespaces available in the Kubernetes system. So kube system, these are the parts in the some of the parts we have seen in the kube system. That is a default Kubernetes system allocates that only for the Kubernetes system, and this is the default one. Kubernetes and kube DNS my service which we created, that is not the one. And the kube system for daemon set and deployment and replica set. So each and every one, daemon set is we already discussed in previous sessions. You can go through that video. And deployment and replica set also we have seen that. This is how you can list out all the command. Okay, suppose if you want to get the pod in the particular namespace, so how you can get that? You can use kubectl get pod -n get pod my pod -n dev. So here we are providing the -n with the help of development namespace. That means my pod is under the development namespace, it will listed. Otherwise you will not get the, see, my pod not found. Suppose if the pod is not found, that means there is no pods available under the development namespace. So we'll create a sample pod, s pod, I can say s pod YAML, and under the development namespace. Okay, not only YAML file, you can use directly you can run it. Kubectl run redis image equal to redis -n dev. So dev is available, right? Okay, the pod was created under the development namespace. We can see if we get the pod get pods. So there is no resource available. I mean it is under the development namespace. Especially you have to specify the namespace, then only it will listed. You can try kubectl get pods -n dev. See, so unless you are specifying the development namespace, the pod is not listed. This is how you can create the pod under the development namespace and get the namespace. Suppose if you want to delete, you can specify the namespace, otherwise it will not delete, and by default it is running under the development namespace. Same way you can use kubectl delete pod redis -n dev. See, the pod was deleted. This is how you can work with the namespaces. So guys, I have completed all the topics from basic to basic concepts, that is fundamentals, pods, replication controller, deployment, replica set, services, namespaces, everything I have completed with the clear cut explanation. All the questions which comes under the basic to advanced, some intermediate level, I have completed. If you go through this video and if you have any doubts, and you can let me know, or else you can use our YouTube channel, tech cs official. You can go through the videos which is helpful for you. I hope these sessions are helpful, and don't forget to subscribe the channel, and I need your support, and thank you guys. Thank you. Bye bye.